Hello, welcome to Moxie Journal. My name is Calyx, and I am so excited to share with you my epic birthday tarot and oracle deck haul. Seriously, this is going to be pretty crazy. I have no idea how long it will take. I'm going to show the decks that I got. I'm going to flip through some of them, talk to you a little bit about how I'm going to use them, or how I think I'm going to use them, because sometimes the way I think I'm going to use something and the way I end up integrating into my practice ends up being different. No journaling here today, but I promise I'm going to talk about journaling soon. The reality is, what I'm going to talk about journaling soon is what it's like when your journaling practice becomes completely scattershot and what to do about it. So, but that's not for today. That is for maybe the next video. For today, we're going to go back to the epic 10 decks I got for my birthday. Like, that's just crazy pants in the best way. So 3 of them were gifts from my partners, and then the other 7 I bought myself with birthday money that I was given, and from people who said, I have no idea which deck to get you, but I know you like tarot cards, so here, have some money to spend on tarot cards. And I went, yes, please, thank you so much, and here we go. All right, so most of them are mass market, and I've had quite a list. I've been spending most of my tarot budget on independent decks. For the most part, I kind of save up and get them. But I've had quite a few mass market decks on my list, and I finally just decided I would get a few that I had been waiting for instead of putting it off. So I'll show you the independent decks first, and then I will show you the rest will be mass market. So the first 2 from mine, and this was a gift from my partner, are the Somnia Tarot and Oracle. And these have been all over YouTube, but TarotTube, but oh my goodness. And they came with these great ribbons. This has got the printed, right? It's like, says the Somnia Oracle on it. And I think down here, does it say? Yeah, by Nicholas Bruno, which I thought was just really fun. They came in a one of those mesh, I don't know what is that material called? Organza or something, bags that match the color of the deck with this ribbon. And they have this guidebook. This is my favorite kind of guidebook. I may have mentioned this when I was talking about Lennox Reese's guidebook, but it's just the right size. The cover is nicely done. It's got right up inside of it, and it's that paper that is smooth but is not shiny, so that I can write on it. I haven't written in it yet, but I definitely plan to. I like to highlight in my books, and I like to write, and I use gel pens, and so on the magazine kind of glossy paper, they tend to smear. So this is the Oracle, the Somnia Tarot Oracle, and then this is the Tarot. It says tarot on both of them, which can be a little confusing, but I just get out the cards and show them in case you haven't seen them. So these are photographic images done with models and photography and digital manipulation, and they're ethereal, dreamlike. I've only used these a little bit since I got them. I got so many decks at once, and I've also been traveling that I've just done a few readings. Sometimes before I really start doing a bunch of readings, especially with an oracle deck, I will spend a couple of nights right before bed flipping through, holding the cards, shuffling them, pulling one card out, and meditating on the image, not even necessarily reading the book, usually because I'm tired and the light is low and I don't want to sit and read a book. Sometimes I'll get up the next morning, look at the write-up on the card that I was reflecting on the night before, write in my journal, all before I actually do any kind of meaningful spread. One of the things I did read in this guidebook about the creator, Nicholas Bruno, is that these images come out of his experience with sleep paralysis and the terrifying feeling of that, and his practice of journaling his dreams and and processing through all of that. I love this image of the threshold here. Isn't this one amazing? Right there where the water and the sky meet, the person kind of in between, and that ladder kind of climbing up, and then the reflection in the water. I think that is just really amazing. I think he's got some really interesting images that have to do with clocks and time and fire and the elements. I love this wayfarer. Are they alighting? Are they lifting up into the sky? These are people-infused images for sure, but there are no faces. So as scary as some of these images can be, not like, you know, jump scare or anything, but just that kind of edgy, not quite reality, not quite, you know, straightforward, some things that are fearful and wondrous, and these colors and these images don't necessarily make sense in a really conscious daylight way, but they definitely make sense to our, oh, this is one of my favorite images. There's something, I don't know, Jules Verne, steampunk with this, you know, underwater scuba, mechanical, being in the elements, transitioning, explore. There's something just really wonderful to me about this image. And so I have started doing some journaling about what these images mean to me, how they strike me. I've done a little bit of reading. I do like to first, particularly with an oracle deck, I like to write and personalize how the imagery strikes me, what I make it mean, because that's really the you know, where it's gonna end up. Oh, the maelstrom. There are a lot of blindfolds and covered faces and fire and smoke and water and land, and look at that, the dousing, right? So recovery. This is a card that speaks a lot to me. So anyway, so this is the Oracle, and then I was so excited to get both the Oracle and the Tarot by the same author. Now, I haven't had these before, so these are this is the Tarot that's the revised edition, and then the first of, so here's the, see how it says the Somnia Tarot, but this is the blue one by Nicholas Bruno. And then I do have this one still in the order because I haven't even put this one in my order that I keep my cards in, because I've just been looking at it as it comes. So again, you can see definitely the same internal dream logic in terms of the imagery and symbolism. But look at that. Look at that trap with the sort of serrated jaws and the strength in opening it, and bent over, and the hermit. Again, lots of the coastal imagery, the water. Oh, that just totally speaks to me. I love this death card. I love the flag. You know, our tarot Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. And so I am delighted to have these cards in my collection finally. Thank you to my wonderful partner for the gift of them. And I can't wait to get them in rotation. I'm not sure yet. The oracles are a little easier for me to slot in than tarot cards often, because I don't know, they just fit in a little bit easier with my journaling practice than necessarily tarot do. I guess I have some things about doing a reading specifically. So I definitely plan to work these in, especially with, you know, so-called spooky season coming up. Although I will say this is a very busy time. I think I've shared the news already here on this channel that my partner proposed to me, and we're having a ceremony in front of our family and friends. My other partner is going to stand up with us for that, and that is going to be actually on Samhain. So it's going to be a very busy, spooky season, but autumn is my favorite time, and I think those cards are really perfect for me to start using then. I do count my year as starting at Samhain. My year goes Samhain to Samhain, so I'm kind of at the end and wrapping up what I think of as the year and about to start. I always start the year diving deep into the darkness of the next one. So why don't we'll start with the decks that I got that are a little darker, and then we'll move into some of the spring, summer, colorful ones that I got. So I have been looking at this. So these are my mass market decks, and I have been looking at this Paolo Barbieri Dante's Inferno deck. I think it came out, I think maybe like a year or two ago, and it's been on my list, and it's not that expensive. It's not a very big deal. What does it say? Oh, 2023. So it's been out longer. I think it's only been on my list for about 2 years. I don't think I knew about it before then. I'm trying to remember. And it has, I think, 30 cards. I don't even think it has 44 cards. Usually I like to have oracle decks that are a little beefier. I think this one has, well, we can look in the book. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck, right? So it's going to have the book that comes in several languages. You can see it's not that expensive. 4 decks, and it has, let's see, I'm just trying to get to the number of cards. Yeah, so it has 36 cards in here. And each of these, I think it's kind of interesting to look at these. These are based on the Dante's Inferno, right? The epic poem with Virgil and our hero. And these cards are, it will challenge you. It's not a gentle deck, and its imagery is by turns violent, horrific, and heartbreaking. Just like the poem it is based on, it understands the depths of human pain and loss, holding up a mirror wherein we can find the incredible torment we experience in this life reflected back to us. So it says, for this reason, it is a powerful tool exploring the shape of our shadow. And I know it's not very fashionable right now to I don't know, call out shadow work. It seems like a few years ago there was a lot more talk about the benefits of shadow work, and right now the pendulum seems to have swung the other way about not necessarily needing shadow work. I do shadow work. I don't necessarily set out to do shadow work. I tend to, I'll flip through these cards while I'm saying this. This is the one I recently got, which I think is a really interesting card. And these are the backs. This cardstock is, you know, it's oracle card size. I do like the rounded corners. It's a little bit, this cardstock, it's not super, it's a little glossy. It's like semi-gloss cards. They're not super thick. They're pretty easy to shuffle at the corners. They're not, you know, they're not fantastic, but they're not terrible. Anyway, what I was saying about shadow work is I do shadow work. It comes up for me pretty often. I don't often just set out to sit down and do shadow work. I tend to have something come up and I realize, ooh, that's something I'm not very comfortable about with myself, and that Judge of Souls. These are all based on specific cantos in the poem. I'll show you a guidebook entry in just a second. And these images are, I mean, they're scary. They are horrific. They're based on these, you know, 9 layers of hell. But the write-ups, I think, so the artwork is by Paolo Barbieri, and the book write-up is by Charles Harrington. I think it's really well done so far. Again, I've sort of done my thing where I look at the pictures, I journal a little bit, I reflect on them. I have not, I will confess, I'm not a horror kind of gal. I'm not very comfortable with really horrific or violent images, which is one of the reasons why I waited on this deck. And I certainly do not reflect on this one at night before going to bed. This is I wake up in the morning and pull one of these cards and sort of reflect on it as the daylight is streaming in. That just makes things a little bit easier for me. One of the things I like about the way it's written up, though, is that it doesn't sort of leave you in the dark and the despair. It really talks about how to use the wisdom of this work to get you into a better place. And so that is really one of the reasons that I do shadow work is, and maybe if anybody's interested, I can do a video on shadow work and what it means to me and how I do it, because I think it means something different to a lot of different people. Oh, I think that one's a really nice card, actually. That one, however, is nightmarish. But the point of it is to integrate the parts of yourself that are neglected or broken or hurt or scared or unappreciated, right? Really getting to the point that you integrate and love all of those pieces of yourself. So shadow work doesn't just have to be dark and horrible and traumatic, right? We often end up with sort of fractured pieces of us that are unloved because we've had violent or mean or difficult experiences, or just kind of a ongoing messages about parts of ourselves that are unlovable. And so we kind of put those off to the side and we sort of love the easier parts. And so for me, doing shadow work is reclaiming these things that look terrible or that I fear, and then integrating them and giving them some grace and love anyway. So, and I think this deck, in addition to just the kind of really interesting images and the idea that it's sort of made to do some of this shadow work, it confronts this idea of hell. I just think it's a really interesting deck. I'm excited to get to work with it. So we'll read some of these, like let's do Eternal Embrace, since it's like the last card right there. We'll look at the guidebook for just a second. So it gives us the poem here, and this is obviously translated into English, so maybe if you read it in Italian, you would have a better impression of the actual poem. But here we go. When how the smile, long wearied for, we read, was kissed by him who loved like none before, this one, who henceforth never leaves me, laid a kiss on my mouth, trembling the while all o'er. That's from the 5th canticle. So it tells us a little bit about the journey, like what's going on in this. Dante encounters the souls of Francesca and Paolo, star-crossed lovers. In life, Francesca was married to Paolo's brother, and when the affair was revealed, he had the pair of them killed. So the divination here, like the message here, is while most of the souls Dante meets curse their fate and wish that they could take back the actions that have landed them in hell, this is not the case with these two lost lovers. It is clear that their love, while illicit, was genuine. This card suggests that at this time there is some person or cause from which you should not waver, no matter how difficult or trying the experience may be. Though you may know suffering for your steadfastness, the experience has something yet to teach you. Two may find balance where one would falter. So you see what I mean about how they don't seem to leave you, even with those images, they don't seem to leave you in a terrible place. Or if you're in a terrible place, they give you some things to think about to get yourself out of it. So I'm excited about this. I have seen a couple of different decks by this artist. I don't know that I've paid attention to whether they were written by Charles Harrington too. I don't know if that's a pairing that works together often, but I do like it in this particular combination, and I think I will pay attention to some of his other offerings. I think there was a dragon one maybe that I'll have to go back and look, but this one has been on the top of my list. I am very interested in Dante. In fact, my partner's family is from Southwest Virginia. I have to tell this story because it kind of cracks me up. And it's hillbilly country, right? The Hatfields and McCoys are just a few miles from the family. So there are places like Tazewell and Hayside. And up there, when we first got up there, there was a street and it said Dante. And I was like, oh my God, I love that there's a street here called Dante. And my partner just looked at me and she said, yeah, around here they say daint. Oh. So anyway, so there is a lovely little street called Daint up in Southwest Virginia, but I think of it as Dante. So the second deck that I think this is a new deck. I don't think I've had it on my list for very long, but I really like Syrian Shadow. I did recently come across something that said that this deck was AI. I have some Syrian Shadow decks. I hadn't known that this creator used AI. I don't feel very comfortable with AI, especially AI replacing actual artist's work, but I have a couple of decks by Syrian Shadow that I really like that have worked for me, and I liked the pictures of this. So I don't know, maybe this will be, and I have not done the research to find out about that, about this. I guess people have looked at the images and can tell based on it. I can't so far. I've just, this one's still in order. I haven't even shuffled this one. I've just flipped through it a couple of times. And one of my favorite decks, especially to use in the fall, is my Syrian Shadow Gothic literature. I mean, I just love that. It's one of my favorites. So maybe I just was a little too quick to trust a creator. I don't know. I'm not a deck creator myself yet. I'm going to leave room. I could possibly do that. But I can't imagine the pressure it must be to use AI with all these sort of crap generated AI decks out there. But I like these images. I think they're interesting. Oh my, this knot one, like that, this oracle, like that actually really speaks to me. I can feel the weathering and the dryness of this wood and this rope, and you know how that's gotten tightened over the time, and wondering whether it's going to hold or whether it's going to be impossible and iron-like to undo. I think these are interesting, really interesting. They're a little dreamy. They're a little soft focus. I think this is an interesting one, magnifying glass, but in fact, this image right here on the side looks clearer to me than the magnifying glass. So in some ways, this kind of reminds me of like the moon card, right? So with illusion, or are you really seeing things clearly? I think this one's interesting. Meadow, mountain, mushrooms. Oh, I have a lot of mushrooms in my yard right now. We're in the midst of summer storms and heat, and they just come up. I also have a big owl that lives in the trees near my house. I cannot take my little puppies outside in the evening or the early morning without standing right next to them, because I don't want Mr. Owl to come down. And he's a giant barn owl, so like he could really do some damage. I think the skull is interesting. I mean, not an unusual example, but I think it's nice and set in the forest. I don't like snails. So this is an example of a card that I will look at the write-up, and I guess if you have to be a snail, I don't know that that's what snails really look like. It doesn't look super slimy, but I'm also fine with oracle cards. If there's one that I dread pulling up or I can't stand the image, I just leave them in the box, or I give them away, or I just throw them away. I just don't worry about that. I don't do that with tarot decks, as I've mentioned in other videos. This squirrel does not look anything like the squirrels in my neck of the woods, so I have not done any research on Syrian Shadow and where they are from, so maybe that is a squirrel from a different part of the world. Mine tend to be a lot fuzzier, not so smooth, and not quite this color. They tend to be a little bushier looking. So that one looks kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a flying squirrel or something. A little redder than the ones that I have. Also, the squirrels around me are very well fed. They're super fat. Stepping stones. I do kind of like this little shadow, sort of lit up figure. It could be an animal, or it could be the little ghosty person, or there's, the haunting. Like sometimes you're being haunted by a butterfly. In this case, like the waterfall is lit up. Anyway, here's the well, the winding road with our, ghosty figure. So that's the haunted cottage, and it's really called Tending Your Haunted Cottage. The the Haunted Cottage Oracle, but in the book is kind of featured about tending a haunted cottage, and I kind of like that idea. So there we go. That's the new Syrian Shadow. Very much autumnal, diving deep into the what's on the other side of the veil. So I'm excited to work with that one. And then, I have this one upside down. This is the Tarot Chimera. This is the Arcana of Odilon Redan by Natasha Roland. I have seen this one. This one must have come out, maybe did it come out in the spring? It was all over for a while. Yeah, so published in 2026. I think it came out earlier this year. It's on my list. I have to say, I do have some issues with weird eyeballs, especially this one that looks like kind of fuzzy and strange. This is very off-putting to me, and it used to be a deal breaker, but I've gotten more accustomed to that imagery. I can understand the metaphor of it, and I think this artist, Odilon Redan, is, if I'm saying his name right, I haven't heard it said, he was a French, I think, French symbolist painter of the 1890s, right? So the end of the 19th century, early 20th century, and these images are black and white. They were done in charcoal. They have this sort of old world feel, and yet this like really interesting take. Like it's not sort of the high portrait art of the times. It looks much braver and odder, and I'm really excited about this. I do really like monochromatic decks. I like black and white. I like it when it's and these are a little sticky. They do have gilding on the sides, and it's not sharp at all, but it's still, I haven't, as you can see, this is still in the order that it came in, not the order that I put things in. I have flipped through it, so I've kind of unstuck the edges, and it hasn't damaged them. You know, sometimes when you unstick gilded edges for the first time, sometimes they clump a little bit or whatever. And I honestly, y'all, I don't worry about that. I think that devil is very interesting, kind of giving you the side eye. Well, I'm sure I've interrupted myself and I can't complete a thought. One of the things that held me back from this deck, getting it earlier this year, even though I love monochromatic decks and I'm interested in this art style and symbolism, and it's a lot of faces, it's a lot of eyes, and I was worried about that confrontational aspect for me. Faces are often very difficult, but they're not often looking straight at you. They're often looking over to the side, as I said, the side eye, of course, and then there's that one, the Nine of Wands. But there is a softness to this, like sort of charcoal drawing. Oh, isn't the Queen of Wands, isn't that amazing? So I love the way this has been chosen from the work. I think they're really well done, and it's unlike any other deck that I have. I don't have a deck. It's cohesive. It's all one artist, and yet it's sort of spans his works, right? They're not all exactly the same sort of style, right? I mean, they some are a little rougher, some are a little smoother, some are a little bit more dreamlike and odd, some are a little bit more in the here and now, some are a little more portraity, some are a little bit more symbolic, and like that one, super creepy but kind of funny. Like, what is going on with this? Don't look, close your eyes if you're not a spider person. And then like that's like a 10-legged spider, and he's furry and he has like a monkey face, and I have no idea what's going on there. But I think they're really well done to go with the tarot story. I really like this Seven of Swords with this sort of serpenty, spiky person with the birds kind of flying at the end. So I've kind of gotten three really dreamy kind of decks, dream/nightmare. Like that one kind of bothers me. I don't like the furry eyeballs. But I think they're not supposed to be super comfortable. I think they're supposed to be a little provocative. The pentacles with the dice coming. All right, so, oh, I didn't talk about cardstock. I'm pretty terrible about cardstock. I like these. These seem to be a tarot size. They are a linen, like a smooth linen finish. I suspect they are easy to shuffle. As I said, this is not, I haven't shuffled it and put it back in order yet. I have just been holding it, but I really like the feel of this cardstock. And it does come with some extra cards. This Chimera, this Trickster card, the Muse, with this like lute and the Star Spangled, this Visionary, which I probably will never shuffle in, as I said, for eyeballs, and then this Genius Loki, Genius of Place, of Space. So I do really look forward to working with this deck. The book I like, so I didn't mention this is from what does that say? You can probably see it better than I can. No, it's not. You're not getting it right. So is it Red Wheel Wiser? Anyway, I like the book. It is that slightly glossy paper. First of all, it's heavy, so that's harder. And as I mentioned before, I have a hard time writing on it with my gel pens, so I'll have to maybe get out an old ballpoint to work on this. I will do this, but I really like what few write-ups I've read about it. Natasha Rowland is the creator of this deck, and talks about the embodied magician, the inverted magician, right? So the serene and mystical high priestess or the inverted high priestess. I like the way they do the opposites there and talk about the archetype and then the different meanings and a little bit about what's going on. So I look forward to getting to work with that more, and I'll tell you more about how I work with it. We'll probably just put this in rotation with spreads. It looks like it's going to be one that will fit right into my sort of existing practices of spreads for specific issues, and I will probably put it into a fall deck edit. Maybe not until like November or December, because my September and October are already looking pretty beefy. All right, so those are my sort of dark decks, darker color, darker themed, darker half of the year with light. And then here are my brighter, lighter decks. So we dove down deep into the year like I do to start my year. We dive into the north, the winter, the dark, and then some light either for when things are dark or when we come out of it again on the other side. I have 4 decks. I have 2 tarot and 2 oracle-ish decks to show you. So the first one came out this spring, the Jane Austen Tarot by Diane Wilkes and Lola Arahi. I probably said that name wrong. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck. It is a lovely deck. I love Jane Austen. I wasn't sure when I first saw this deck, to be perfectly honest. I don't completely love the artwork. I do love that it has a little card with the back. These are the backs. And I think I have been working with this one, so I haven't put it back in order. But so I'm just going to kind of lay out cards here. See if they're shiny. They're slightly sort of semi-gloss over a little bit of a light linen finish. I'm probably using the words wrong. These cards feel a little thinner to me, a little lighter, but they shuffle nicely. I like the thinness to me. Again, I'm not going to use this card every single day for years and years. It's going to be an occasional deck for me. I think the cardstock is great. The way it's coated, I think it'll stand up exactly to the kind of usage that I will put it through. One of the reasons I held off on this, again, it's so funny to have all these people, is very people-y, as a Jane Austen story should be, right? I mean, a Jane Austen deck, because it's based on her works. I do love all 6 of her novels. I haven't read the fragment pieces that are left, and I like Jane Austen themed. Other things, I just finished watching the I guess it's on BritBox, the Other Bennett Sister series, miniseries. I just thought that was brilliant, based on Mary, so from Pride and Prejudice, the other Bennett sister, so not Elizabeth, but the younger, and it's the younger sister, and it's not Kitty, not Lydia, not Jane, not Elizabeth, but the other Bennett sister, Mary. It's really the great series, and I don't know, I reread all of these books probably once every 18 months or so. I love the analysis of manners and sort of the societal norms, and I honestly, I wanted to just love this deck, but when I first saw it, I was like, oh, they look a little cartoony for me, and they're very people-y in a way that I wasn't sure I could get over. And then I started watching people and how they used it and put it out, and I realized I like the colors. I should have set them up. Maybe I'll click or connect Shanna D at Sincerely Shanna D. She did a walkthrough of this deck that I thought was really lovely, because she showed how the suits all were in sort of the same colorway, and I do like that. But it's not like they all work together when you lay them out like this, but when they are suit by suit, it's subtle, but it's all together, it's cohesive. And then here's the card. So I thought, well, maybe I can do it, and I saw more people working with it, and I thought, you know what, that's going to go on my wish list. I do like it, and I haven't done it, put it in my welcome in journal yet, but I have been shuffling it and holding it and flipping through and reading it. Just off the bat, I have to say, I'm not necessarily able to, without kind of looking up and thinking about it, I don't know which book they're from. I do like that the aces tell you which book. So the quills, which are swords, I believe, the suit of air, this is from Emma, and then the majors are all different scenes from all the different ones. So I haven't worked with it enough, but I feel like it's one of those decks where when I start working with it, I'll really remember and know those stories. And I do have particular favorites from the movies, and have rewatched some of the movies recently. So I'm looking forward to getting to know that. If you don't love Jane Austen already, but you're drawn to this art, I do think it mirrors the Rider-Waite-Smith system pretty easily. So I think once you worked a little bit and read the story and why it's connected from the little guidebook, I think you would be fine with it. I don't know that for certain because I love Jane Austen, but that's my idea. I do like the flowers. I do like the softness of it. It seems like a gentle re-entering from the dark time. The pacing is still slow and gentle, but smart. I love Jane Austen's wit, and she doesn't let people get away with things. So anyway, so that's a birthday present to myself with money from my dad. And then I got these two decks, both by a creator named Katie Daisy. So you may have seen these, but if you hadn't, I only recently saw them. So, I mean, I think these just got on my list at the beginning of this summer. One is called, I think this one came first, How to Be a Wildflower Deck, and then How to Be a Moonflower Deck. And it's 78 ways to let the night inspire you, or 78 symbols from nature to guide you and inspire you. And they come in these great little, like, drawer kind of boxes, so kind of pulls out like a little drawer. Sometimes I don't like these because when you pick them up off the shelf, they kind of fall out, but actually there's something a little bit magical about these kind of coming out like treasure drawers that I do kind of like. These, I'm going to show them both at the same time. I think they're very fun. You get sort of two decks in one. On one side, they have a picture, and on the other side, it tells you what to do, or has a quotation, or a little inspiration. So for me, that's the perfect combination of image and text. So on my Moonflower deck here, it says, walk barefoot in moonlit grass. And in the Wildflowers, it will never rain roses. When we want to have more roses, we must plant more roses, George Eliot. And they just, isn't that fun? The sweet imagery. Oops, I don't have wonderful messages on the back. I really enjoy the colors. There is something, this is like just a dopamine hit in a box for me, particularly with this visual image. These are the kind of cards that I will put on my Xerox machine, copy down into little like stamps kind of thing, put them in my journal, write about them like this will practice night gardening, or you shall see wonders by William Shakespeare. So these are just delightful to me. This is wonder and whimsy and sweetness. I will say the only even slightly negative thing I have to say about this is a cardstock thing, which you know me now, was not typically a thing, but I just got these and look how bowed they are. Can you see that? Now, I live in a very humid environment in the southeast, and so maybe they will, end up straightening out. If not, that's fine. I'm probably going to use them as altar cards and to sketch with. I won't probably use them very much in a I won't use more than one maybe in a reading. I do, when I use oracle cards like this, I like to put it in the center and then do tarot and other oracle cards around it, or I put it on my altar. And sometimes when I put cards on my altar anyway, they end up getting a little bowed just from, kind of sitting up in a stand for a week or two or a month or, even a couple hours sometimes. So, did I mix them up? Is this my... Well, and I may have already mixed them up, but I think moon is over here. Well, I'm going to put them in these boxes and then we'll see. I'll undo them later. But these are lovely. I'm excited about them. And I will probably use these in the winter time, even though they're colorful, they're gentle. So sometimes I need more color in the dark times, and I need a little more soothing black and white when everything's wild and woolly in the summer. So opposites evening things out. So then my final deck, am I on the final one? Yeah, I'm on the final one. I have no idea how long I've been talking. I hope you're still with me. You may have seen this tarot. This is the Verdance Tarot by Stephanie Puimun-Law with a forward, I've been a Bell Win. This is I think this is Llewellyn deck. Surely it's Llewellyn. It comes like a boxed, so let's see. Does it say right there? Yeah, Llewellyn. This is Llewellyn. And it's one of these boxed sets. And so it's got the magnetic closure and comes, and then it's got the Verdant Companion book. And this book is one of these, hefty ones. It is that glossy paper. It's not super glossy, but it's glossy enough that my gel pens don't like it. So again, I'm gonna have to deal with that. But and it comes with the, honestly, this does nothing for me. So I appreciate the idea, Llewellyn, but I don't know what to do with those. Those don't do anything for me. And then it's got the cards in a little well like this. I do kind of wish, I know it's extra packaging, but I wish these had a little tuck box. I know box in a box, people hate that, but I don't really want to store this whole big box on my shelf. I would rather store the little and then put this on my bookshelf, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. I'm getting enough of these little sets that come like that Llewellyn does, that maybe they'll just have their own shelf. I have, oops, see, I do that sometimes. I shuffle in the cards here. These are, if you haven't seen Stephanie Law's work, Puimun-Law's work before, it's very soft pastel. There is a lot going on in here. I like the colors. I do like the nature. I held off on this because I thought maybe it's just a little busy. I can't do a whole lot of these, and honestly, like, it looks really good on camera, but there's a lot going on, and my eyes are a little older, and oh, that Seven of Swords, it's so sad to me, the swords through the eggs. Anyway, I just wasn't sure. I liked it. I thought I was drawn to it, but it seemed lots of little details that I might miss. But it just kept coming back on my list. And then I think it was Tegan over at Animals in Arcana that really moved this up the list for me. She pointed out the guidebook, and I am a sucker for a guidebook with a lot in there, and I've gotten snobbier about cardstock and guidebooks as I've gone along in my tarot journey. Again, even though this one has the glossy paper, I'm going to forgive it because it has some really wonderful aspects. It has, first of all, Benabille Wynn has written the foreword, which is just amazing. I do like the way the art is talked about and explained. And I mean, clearly, Stephanie Puimanla is an amazing artist, so no AI worries at all with this. I also particularly like the size. So the cards, her artwork is represented in this bigger format in the book, which is wonderful because for me, because I can see more of the details in the bigger pictures. So when I'm journaling, and then the card is more sort of a reminder of that. And if I start looking at it, and I can also use my camera here to see some of the details, but then I can flip to the book and see more. Some of the things that Tegan at Animals and Arcana pointed out that this is what sold it to me, is this symbol key. So it has like pages and pages and pages of this symbol key where it will list a symbol like an acorn, what that means, new growth, wealth, and then the cards that it's featured on. So you can find it in the cards, it applies to that particular card, but also see this can help make some links between this new growth and this wealth being an aspect of several different cards. And it's not just like a few, it is pages and pages of these associations. And as an artist, as a reader, as a pattern maker and analyzer, and I just love getting some insight and some guidance on looking for and working with these symbols. I really appreciate that, and I find it fascinating. I've not seen that in any other book. She's got meditations, how to work with this, and getting started. There's some sort of typical things. Also, anywhere that. And I've seen this part in other books. There are some other books that do give you some numerology associations, right? So in addition to the elemental pieces, there are the numbers and what ones mean, and twos and threes, and what these titles and the life stages here, as they say, for the court cards, and what the correspondences are. Like, I've seen that somewhere. I just, in some decks, but I haven't seen symbols laid out quite that same way. And it's just, I'm so excited to get to work with this. Again, I've flipped through it a little bit. I've shuffled it. I think I've reordered it and then shuffled it a little bit more. I have not even pulled a card to really start journaling with. I mean, I've pulled a card and looked at it, and I do the star, the visionary, and look at how much. And of course, this colorway works for me. Of the irises down here, the stars. Look at these claws holding on, lifting the veil, all this ethereal light coming out. The shells. Like, I think this is a deck somewhat like the Bone Stone, that is going to be one of those decks that I just really work with for a long time and don't put down. So I probably won't work with it daily and in spreads until probably Imulk. This seems like that kind of softness, again, with the soft colors and lots of colors. That's something that I really start craving in February, and but I'm going to definitely be holding this close until then. So, like, I love this conversation with the artist at the end. I'm one of those people, I love the story behind the story. I love knowing more about the artist, particularly in this day and age, like we were talking earlier about the AI. I don't want some machine generated something. I want symbols and connection and art that's created and driven and human focused. Even though I love animals, I'm an animal deck person. The people, decks for me that are too people-y are challenging, but I am a human in this world, and I have a human experience, and I want that connection to be a part of it, even though animal and plant energies and friends are part of that human experience, at least for me, the ideal human experience. So I just don't think a machine can truly get at that. So, or at least not yet. Maybe I will eat my words. But so these are my decks. These are my joys, my birthday, my celebration. I am happier than I've ever been in my life, and that's pretty amazing after a half a century plus on this planet to just feel like things are better and more wonderful. And I look forward to, there's so many decks here, that I just look forward to getting to explore and reflect and enjoy this art and these creators. And it's going to take me a while to integrate these. I don't even know how quickly I can get them into my journal. So thank you for being here with me, for celebrating my haul. I don't even know if I've ever done a haul video. I don't usually have a haul to celebrate, but this one is epic. So, all right, my friend, thank you for being here. Oh, please remember to mash all the buttons and I don't know, share this with somebody you think might have a birthday list of their own or want to see all these decks. And please join me in my next video. Take care.